Hi friends, it's Becky, and it is time for one of my favorite little activities that I get to do with y'all, and that is that sometimes I get so inspired by a beautiful color palette of beads that it makes me want to pull out a color palette of paints and make some art I can hang on a wall and art that I can wear using the same basic color palettes. And I am so inspired by the Northern Lights Sam's Bead Box that we got in March that I want to paint the Northern Lights here with y'all today, and we'll do this all in one video. So this will be a long video, so get comfy, get something to drink, grab a project to make while I am doing this. And if you want to skip past any of the bits, I'll put some timestamps in the description below if you want to, jump from the jewelry making part to the jewelry making part to the jewelry making part because you really don't want to watch me paint, or if you just want to watch the painting, you can do that. So we'll have that, and I'll tell you a little bit about what materials I'm going to be using and also the format of it. So how it usually works when I do these, and this is a type of video that I've done a few times before. I have a playlist for these. I'll put that in the description below as well. So if you want to see some of my other watercolor plus jewelry painting sessions, you can. Well, usually there's a part in the watercolor process where you have to leave it alone. You have to step away from it and go do something else, because if you don't wait for it to dry, you're going to screw up your painting, which is that's a big problem I have, I will admit. So one of the best ways for me to do that is to work on something else. So what I'll do is I'll start my painting with y'all, and then when it comes to a point where I need to stop and let it dry, I'll come back to my bead mat and I will start working on one of the projects. I'm going to be making a necklace, a bracelet, and some earrings today. So we'll have several stopping points for the different parts of the painting. But by the end of this video, I'll have both a completed jewelry set and a completed painting, and we'll be able to do that together. So I am going to be using, for my painting, this Paul Rubens Opera Brights set that I got a while back. Now, opera colors are generally not light fast, but they are so bright and vibrant, and I really wanted some bright colors up in the sky for that. So I'm going to be using the opera yellow, a touch of this green, might do a little bit of this blue, but I am definitely going to be grabbing some of this opera pink and this opera violet right here. It gives me that kind of magenta color. I'm also going to be doing some of the sky background with some of the ultramarine so that I have a blue base behind it before I put some darker sort of darkness in there, because, you know, night sky is not black. It is just a deep, endless, dark, 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 dark blue. So we'll be using those. I think I might grab a white marker, paint marker, to do some stars in the sky, rather than grabbing like bleed-proof white or white gouache or something like that. But for my dark shades, I've got some lamp black Daniel Smith paint here in this palette that I'm going to be adding to that, because there is no black in this palette here with my brights. So let me get that a little bit more out of the way. I'm going to be painting on this block. It is, let me flip over that cover, 10 by 7 inch watercolor block by Layton. This is a nice, inexpensive 100% cotton paper. It behaves the way you would expect. It has a very, for a cold press paper, it has a very toned down tooth to it. It just, there's not very rough at all. So if you want a rougher paper, there are other watercolor papers that do that. But I think that this is going to be a good paper for us to do this on, because the paint will flow, and it'll flow very nicely. I've used it for other projects before. I'm also going to be using some brushes. These are from my Artegria set. I'm going to be using my 3/4 inch wash brush to lay down some broad strokes of basically just water. And then I'm going to be using a round 8 to apply my little squiggles in the sky. And then for a little bit more detail, because I'm going to do some black silhouettes in the front of the painting, probably trees. And so I'm going to use the Arteria 3 for that, because it'll be a little bit more fine detail that I'm going to be wanting to put in with that, with just the black. So that's the painting stuff that I'm going to be using. For the jewelry making, I've already pulled out some of the things that I want to use in this project. I love this little glittery pendant. It glitters. So obviously we're going to be using that. This will be for the necklace. I'm going to be using this and some of these two-tone faceted coin beads. Also going to be using these two-tone 4mm fire polish beads. Some of these teeny tiny sparkly gemstones. Definitely these pink and purple melon beads, obviously. And then some of these 3-color, because it has the lime green, the amethyst, and then this sapphire blue fire polish beads. And these are some of those larger ones. And that'll be for both the necklace, the earrings, and the bracelet. I'm going to be using those. I grabbed this button from Sam's Bead Shop during my last shop with them, and I just thought these colors would go so great with these others, so I'm going to be using this in my button. And I'll put a link to this button if they still have it in stock. I'll check when I go to post this. If they do still have it in stock, I'll put a link to that in the description below, so you can do that. See if you can find that to go with it. And then these little crystal guys, these are going to be in my earrings. So I'm just setting aside the earrings and the button up in my little organization sections up here for now, so that we can keep that a little bit separated. I did also, in that shop that I got from Sam's Bead Shop, I got the seed bead mixes that they put together. Rachel curates these, and I absolutely love them. They're really great. So I spilled a few of the Ado seed beads out. I'm going to be using them as some spacers in my designs. As we do that, I'm going to be doing some stringing, because I feel like stringing today. And so I'm going to be using this purple amethyst color beading wire. I think it will be fantastic with all of these. Keep that color going strong. I have some 2x2 crimp tubes that I'm going to be using, some oval jump rings, and this little S-hook clasp from my stash for closure. And then the tools that I'll be using are, actually, do I need this? I might. Yes, I am going to use this, because there's going to be a little bit of wire working when I go to make the earrings. Why don't I grab some pewter soft flex for that? Or this is a very bright silver, so no, let's use my silver wire for that instead of the pewter. Bright silver. There we go. So we'll use that. That's 20 gauge wire. That we'll use for that part of the thing. So we've got flush cutters, round nose pliers, and chain nose pliers for that part. And then for crimping my my wire, my favorite way of crimping is using a magical crimper. So I'll be using that as well. Alright, I'm going to move this beadboard out of the way so that I can get started on the painting. So that is one of the beauties of having a beadboard with a board underneath it, is that I can clear off my workspace, move it out of the way, start working on something else. And these watercolor blocks make this fairly portable. I think I want most of my sky to be the upper 2/3 of this, and then we'll have a little bit of for scenery. It's mostly going to be here that we do this. So I'm just going to wet my entire page with some water. I got my little Tostitos jar with my water. And I'm just going to start. Alright, I had to check and make sure there wasn't any paint left in here from the last time I did something. So I'm just going to do broad strokes to get this paper wet. I've got it taped up on the edges. I like a nice clean edge, especially when I've got a white edge against color or something really helps the painting and the paint stand out a little bit more. I'm wondering if I should try and move this up a little bit higher because I'm bumping into it with my brush and I don't want to do that. Alright. I'm just trying to move around some of the super wet spots into some of the drier bits so that we get an even wash with this, and they are going to start drying up fairly soon. So time for me to start grabbing some of these colors. Let me grab this yellow, and I am going to green this yellow up a little bit. And it's not sticking to that, so that's one of the things about metal ones. I guess I didn't prep this for it. There are things you can do to the enameled metal so that it doesn't bead up like that. Whereas it doesn't bead up much at all for anything on ceramic like this is. So I'm just grabbing this yellow. It's a bright neon-y yellow. And like I said, I want to green this up a little bit because I would like it to be a little more lime-y, or neon green rather. So I'm just using this green from over here in the corner. We're going to green that up, load up my brush, and I'm going to start just swirling my way across. Whoop! It'd be nice if we could see what I'm doing. Kind of broad strokes. And you know, the nice thing about the Northern Lights is that they are very swirly, and they are constantly moving, constantly shifting. So any way that you want them to go on here, if you look at photos of them, sometimes they're like straight up and down, sometimes they weave across the sky, sometimes they are just I'm just going to soften up some of these lines a little bit. I'm grabbing some water because I think my paper started drying a little too quickly. That was not fun. Alright. I wanted this stuff to blend a little bit better. Alright. It's fine. We'll work faster is what we'll do. Next color that I wanted to use was going to be a little bit of this blue just in the corners as a transition, maybe a little bit swooping in to this green. Yeah. And let's get some purple in here. Turning into a little bit of mud in some of these places. And the bright, bright neon opera right there. Alright, so those are some really bright swirls that we've got going on right now. So now I'm going to take this darker blue, this ultramarine, and I'm just going to come in from the corners. Like that. This is not finished, this is just the first layer. You can see how using some darker colors I can kind of tone down the full effect of this a little bit more. The edges too. And we'll be coming in with some darker colors after this dries too, to really get oh my goodness, yeah. It's fine if it doesn't completely look like the Northern Lights yet. I am not done. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this gray, or a little bit of this black down here and just kind of block in this bit. And it's only with, I washed it out so it would be more of a gray than black, because we'll go in with some actual black in a bit. So this is very abstract right now. It's not going to look like much yet. It looks a little bit like a unicorn threw up on part of this paper, which is totally fine. I'm just going to take this brush, it's mostly dry. Give that a rinse. Dry it off a little bit more. And I'm just giving it, softening some of this a little bit with some upward strokes, because it feels like we're getting some hard lines in some of this. Like that. And I'm just showing you what I'm doing. I'm dipping it in the water and then tapping it on here so that I'm not adding water, I'm just moving. But then I want to remove some of that for the next stroke. So there, that looks a little more Northern Lightsy, doesn't it? A little bit more. Alright, I'm gonna let this dry. Why don't we make some jewelry? trade places with my beadboard up here. And I figured out why it was drying so fast. It's because I have a fan going. It is getting warm in Texas, so I have a fan going in the background. Alright, so if you do hear something like that, that's what it is. Alright, now let's figure out the necklace design. I think I'd like to color block this a little bit, rather than having all those swirls like I did in the painting. Let's color block. Let's start with our glittery guy down here at the bottom. And let's do some of these guys down there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 of those maybe. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yes, I think that's going to be perfect for that. And we'll take some of these guys. I'm going to save these for the bracelet. And let's snip this. Get some of these beautiful gray gemstones in here, because we're going to be putting some of these right in there with these, and also I'm going to be using some of the seed beads as well. So I'm just doing half. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's necklace. Let's move some of these other guys out of the way a little bit, because when the bead mat is super busy, my camera wants to focus on what's behind it instead of what's right in front of it when I'm doing things. So just moving some of these out of the way. All right. And then I've got these guys. And I think I'm going to do my stringing with some color blocking too. So let's try that. Yes. All right. I'm going to work from the middle out, where I've got this guy. Pick up a, I can always add that after I get this first part strung. I'm just going to get a jump ring for stringing this on. Alright. Beading wire. This part I'm going to use couple of these, like, sort of, I don't know what you'd call that color, but it's sort of a metallic-y iris sort of a color. Alright, and then our black guy on there. And then 2 more of those. And 1 of these. Like that. And then let's pick up 2 more of these. I really love getting the these add-ons, the seed bead mixes. They are a separate purchase from the Bead Box. But they always make me so happy, and they just enhance so much of what you can do with this. So it is one of my favorite things that they do. Speaking of the bead box, while I'm stringing this up, let's talk about that. We are in April now, and you have until April 9th to sign up for the April Sam's Bead Box. I'll put a link in the description to Sam's Bead Shop. I also have a little coupon code that you can use to get $5 off of your first subscription if you would like to do that. It is right in there. It should be Becky5, I'm pretty sure. I'll double check and make sure it's in the description so you can see that when you go down there. Alright, so that is that section. Again, we're color blocking. Am I going to need 3, 4, and 5? I might be able to just do 3 for each and have that be enough. Let's try it with 3 each, and then we can go from there. Alright, so for this one, I think I'm going to be picking up both a blue and a purple seed bead. So I'm picking up 2 different colors of seed bead for this section, for this color block section. Blue and purple. This is really fun, actually. I have seen a lot of fantastic lariat designs using this box. I know I'm going in a different direction. That doesn't mean that I can't make a lariat. I still have so many beads in there, even after pulling all of these out for this project. It is a pretty good value for the amount of beads you get and what you can do with it. So hold on, let me just take a look. Yeah, let's go ahead and do 3, 4, and then 5. I think I'm going to like that a little bit more. Or it might be 3, 4, and 4. We'll see. We'll see. Sorry, I lost my my spool. It landed on the floor. I had to go pick it up. All right. We've got this guy in here. This is what I call a subtle sparkle, this one, because it's just this dark kind of gray bead, and then the faceting catches the light and it just sparkles right at you. I love that. I should be adding one of these first. Okay. These guys and then that one. I almost messed up my little pattern that I was using. Almost, but not quite. There we go. And now I'm going to be doing pinks, pinks, pinks. I suppose I could do pinks and purples, but I feel like just pink, pink, pink. Something that was surprising to me when we had one of those events where the Aurora Borealis was visible to more of the lower 48 United States than before, is that when you get a little bit further down in latitude, the aurora goes from green more towards pinks and purples, and so everyone who was taking photos of it were taking photos of pink auroras, and it was just such a fantastic phenomenon. This was last year when that was happening. I think it was in the summer, actually. Last summer, when like just everybody could see the aurora, except for me, because we had, when it was down far enough that you'd be able to see it here, we had overcast skies. So that was a little disappointing, but it still was exciting that so many people got to see that and participate in it and have it be something that I'm going to add. But I was right. My first instincts were right, actually, for that length. I kind of love how the color blocking carries up with the change in seed bead colors too. It makes me really happy. But these guys tie it all together. They keep everything together on that. But yeah, this was a fantastic theme for a bead box. I love all of these. Just gonna double check the length real quick before I hit this last one, just to be sure that I am in the right place. Okay, so actually let's just keep that one out of there. And there we go. So it's 3, 4, and 4, not 3, 4, and 5. That is how we will do it. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is, now that I know how long that is going to be, I'm going to cut off enough wire to string the other side. Since I started from the middle. Pop that little bead stopper on. Locate my tools, because I had moved them out of the way to paint. Alright. That does mean that I can move my spool out of the way for now, because I will be using it for the bracelet as well. And I'm going to just put this little jump ring on my pendant so that I can string it. So I want my pendant on here before I start stringing the rest of it. I'm just going to use the same beading pattern that I used before on the first side for my second side. That means pulling some of these guys out. So pretty so far. So pretty. I might need to spill out a few more of these if I want to keep going. I might be able to do it with just the ones that are out here though. Let's find out. Did use some of the same beads for this bracelet earlier, but a lot of these were different beads that I used for this. This was one of the things that I created with my most recent bracelet bash, which I will also put a link to in the description, but this used beads from this bead box. I think the ones that are the same are just the these melon beads. And I did get a second order of the melon beads because I love them so much. So if you're thinking to yourself, Becky, you have so many of those melon beads, there's a reason why. I totally just messed that up. Let's do this again. I got distracted by talking about my bracelet. That's what happened. That's better. That's much, much better. Alright. I think we did it. There we go. 1, 2. And these 2 to lead up to these triple color guys. Alright, and I got blues and purples, or blurples if you will. For this section. Be a nice fun activity. Oh, why am I putting 2 of those on in a row? And another blue and purple. And one of these guys. And now pink, pink. Pink, 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 pink. Alright. tiny beads. It's like, I'm trying to remember what these gemstones were, but it said on here what they were. I'm pretty sure. Silver sheen obsidian faceted rounds. That's what these are. Silver sheen obsidian. Amazing. Because like I was sitting there thinking, is it... It's not larvikite, is it? No. Silver sheen obsidian. That's what it is. Right. There is also this like very light blue bead in this bead mix, and I guess I could have used that here in this portion and it would have gone really well with this, but I think I like it better this way. Actually, it makes that stand out a little bit more for that. I am, however, going to be using these with the bracelet that I'm going to be putting together. So I'm just going to scooch these a little bit out of the way, but not completely put them away, because I will be using some of those beads. I didn't use them at all for this, so I still have plenty in the stuff that I spilled out for that. I'm going to double check my length again, just to make sure that I wasn't being crazy about that. And let's go ahead and I'm just going to make a couple of loops with my, hold on, there was a little ring, there it is. I'm going to make a little couple of loops with my wire and some crimp tubes, and then I'll use the jump rings to attach these to them after I make my loops. I'm going to start with this one on this side, because it's the one that doesn't have a bead stopper on it. Let's get out some crimps and my crimper. So to make a little loop on the end, just going to put on my crimp tube, bend the wire back through it, and I'm just going to scooch this up here, make sure that I have a decent size loop, but not too big. Make sure my wire is not crossed. It's not as important to not cross your wire with this type of crimping method as it is with others. But if you haven't seen this type of crimp before, I'm going to be using these magical crimpers. They have the one bit in here, right there in the middle. It's kind of a concavity, a big old circle. And so what you want to do is center your crimp right there in that, give it a smush, and it presses down just the corners. So you're left with kind of a pillow shape or a ravioli shape. And then if you go at it from another angle and smush it down, then it looks a little bit like a mangled mess. But then if you go from a completely other angle and you keep going around, what happens just have to keep going. After a while of turning it and then squishing it, and then turning it and then squishing it, all of those rough corners, they get pressed down and you end up with a nice smooth ball of crimp. And because it doesn't have any rough corners, you don't have to use a crimp cover. It's my favorite reason for using them, because I do not like crimp covers. I'll go out of my way to not use them. It's one less thing I have to worry about buying, messing with. And you just end up with a nice little crimp right there and a loop at the end of your wire. So let's do the same thing over here. I'm gonna make myself a nice little loop. I am going to twist this up a little bit so that when I crimp it, it's not going to crimp it so tight that the necklace doesn't dangle well. I'm going through my crimp and then through a couple of these seed beads. You don't have to go through extra beads with this type of crimping method, but I just like to sometimes, if it'll fit. So right here on the second one, sometimes you need to use your fingernail to make a little bit of space between that final bead and your crimp so that the edges of your crimper can fit around it and it can get centered, and also so you don't accidentally squish the bead in your crimpers. I have done that before. Okay, that is crimped, crumped, cramped. You can kind of see the color blocking a little bit better, like that. I love that. Alright, and then we're going to grab some jump rings. Just going to twist that open. And I'm going to attach this closed ring to the end of that end of the necklace. Give that a close. And then attach this hook to this end of the necklace. I think I might need a bigger jump ring. Actually, these are kind of small jump rings, and this is not, maybe it will. I might need to just open this wider, actually. Yes, yes, yes. That will work. There we go. So now I've got my little S hook. I just had to adjust the space between this part of the hook and that part of the hook, so this would actually fit between that. Okay, so I've got the necklace completed. I'm going to move this out of the way. First of all, I'm going to check my painting, see how we are for drying. It is not quite dry yet, so I'm going to put this back and let's move on to the bracelet section. I think, did I not spend enough time on this? Maybe. Or it may be that I need to get out my dryer and blow that dry. I am going to check and make sure that I can fit 2 strands of this wire through some of these beads. Okay, yes, these beads will take 2 strands of wire. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Let me check on this one. No, actually, we're just going to use these ones. These are the ones we're using for the bracelet. These guys, and those sort of aqua colored seed beads. That's how we're going to do it. Alright, now I'm going to be doing some sinuousy things with my wire, the way that the Northern Lights kind of sinewy or across the sky. It's one of my favorite ways of doing this, is using 2 strands, well, of the same strand, and going sort of crisscross through some larger beads, and then we'll have these guys along the sides, and these ones to just kind of give it more of a curve. So I want enough wire for it to go around my wrist twice, and then 3 times, because there's going to be some curvature, some going back and forth, and then a little bit extra for crimping, and that should be enough wire. This is, let's see, that's 34, 68, 100 and something. I'm done with math, but it's sort of a decent amount of beading wire. And the thing is, I would rather cut more than enough beading wire than I need than not enough, because even with little short bits of this beading wire, you can still do things like I can make an entire earring with this little bit of wire. So I'm going to take my wire, I'm going to drop my button down to the center of this wire. So I'm holding both ends of my wire together, and I put one end through the button, and it's going to just drop right there to the center of that. Where are my crimps? I just had them. Because I'm going to crimp this wire onto the button right there in the center before we start and going forward and doing anything else. There we go. Y'all, I can hear the June bugs hitting my window. I don't know if you live anywhere where you have June bugs, but they are sort of big, fat, flying insects that are just the dumbest, bumblingest little guys in the world. Like they bump into things. They'll just be like, oh, and they don't see, I guess, where they're going or what they're doing. They're just like, I'll just keep flying till I hit something. It's ridiculous, but I just heard them tapping on my window just now. I was like, what is that? And then I was like, oh, June bugs. That's what it is. So again, I'm just going to crimp this the same way I crimped the ends of the necklace. Making sure that we're going around a little bit. Okay, so now that we're crimped on there, we've got our the start of this button, I'm going to take one of these guys and I'm going to put it right there next to the button, but I'm going to put it both ends of the wire through it going in the same direction. So it goes through like that. Bring that down there. And now we can start splitting the wires up a little bit. I'm going to take 3 of these 11-ohs. Once again, I'm just going to use the aqua colored ones. 3 11-ohs on each strand of wire. And they're these aqua guys. One, 2, 3. And then on each strand, 1 of these green and purple 4mm fire polish beads. And then 1 aqua seed bead. They're aqua lined, by the way, which is just the coolest thing. And then they have an AB finish. And you know, AB stands for Aurora Borealis. Now comes the fun part. So now that the wire is coming out like that, we're going to crisscross them through one of these beads. So we go crisscross applesauce. I go through in one direction with 1 strand of wire, then I'll go through the other direction with the second strand, like that. We bring it down there. And now seed bead, fire polish seed bead on one strand, and then seed bead, fire polish seed bead on the other strand. And we're going to go through one of these again, crisscross. There we go, like that. It's going to make kind of a little bit of a ladder as it goes across all the way down the line. I'm just going to switch places with these because I'm doing more of a getting things from there to the other. I'm going to take just a minute to separate out the aqua seed beads that I'm using, just to make things a little bit easier on myself as I go through this. Since that's the only seed bead that I'm pulling out of this mix. For this project, or for the bracelet. That's going to be a little bit easier for me to rock on and just keep going. So I am going to keep on doing this. Now if you'd like to skip past my stringing this, again, there will be timestamps in the description below, but I do need to kill some time while my painting is drying, so I'm going to keep stringing this with y'all. If you don't mind just spending a little bit of time with me, then we can definitely just keep stringing. Sometimes I feel like that is what I do. Just keep stringing, stringing. Right, friends? Just keep stringing. It is such a great way to relax and enjoy the art of creation, the act of creation, making something pretty. Stop for a minute and just kind of admire that. Isn't that great? I love it. I love it. Now, if I could somehow be coordinated enough to pick up beads with both hands at the same time instead of one at a time, that would be great, but I'm not that coordinated, so one at a time it is. This is such a fun way of doing these things. But honestly, using these melon beads for like everything that I'm making from this box really makes buying those extras worth it. They are, I think, my favorite bead from the box. If I have to pick a favorite. But nobody's forcing me to pick a favorite, so, you know, I'm not gonna. So one of the things I'm going to be doing on the other end of this is making a loop that will go around this button. When I do that, I'm going to use these 11-0 seed beads to do that. That's why I brought both of these out. I've got the 8-0s that I'm using here, but the 11-0s are going to be for my loop at the very end of this. I could do a loop with the 8-0s, but I prefer loops with smaller beads. Oh, that's far too many of those. I only need one of those at a time. I'm going to need to get some more of those aqua beads out of the tube. Forgot to pick up a second one on that one. There we go. That will be all of them. is about halfway through. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus 1 extra in case I need it. This is great. Oh, that's right. I need to get more of those aqua beads. Oh, there's a lot more in here. I do actually enjoy sorting beads like this. This is one of those Zen things. You know how you can do like a Zen garden, and it's like basically just raking sand. I get that same kind of satisfaction from using my little shovel to separate one color of beads from the next color of beads. It's my little pretty Zen garden right here. My Zen garden has sparkles. Does yours? Alright, I don't know if that's going to be enough, but I can separate out more if I need to in a little bit. I don't need to do the whole thing. I don't need to do the whole thing. Now, what you're probably thinking, Becky, why didn't you make your bracelet match your necklace? But sometimes I like jewelry pieces that aren't completely matchy-matchy, but they just go together. So that's why I'm doing it this way. Using like one bead that I'm using in the other one for this bit. But also that way too, like I could, again, stack it with this one, or wear it with something else that I make from that box. Oh, Becky, put them in the right order, you silly Billy. There we go. So glad that everything is working out. Just curious. Ooh, it's feeling a little more dry. Good, yay. Sorry, I was checking my painting. I'm gonna get all impatient, aren't I? Guess I could just take longer to make my jewelry. That's something I could do. I like how this style of bracelet is often a little bit stretchy just by nature of the way that it's made. Alright, so I'm going to end about there. So that's going to be about 2, maybe 3 more. This is a bracelet mandrel that Amy Campbell sent me. She had these 3D printed. Heather Aston has been helping ship them out. You can email her to get one of those bracelet mandrels if they still have any available. I don't know what the stock levels are looking like though, so. But I'm sure Heather would be happy to tell you yes or no about those. I will share her address, her email address in the description as well. So you can give her a shout out, or if you are on Campbell Creators Facebook group, you may already know Heather Aston fairly well. She has been sharing some videos with macrame lately, and it has been pretty cool. Alright, I'm going to check my size again, see where we're at, see if we're about ready to taper this back down, and then start a loop for the end of this. Okay, yep, that's going to be about the right place for me to start that. So for this, I'm going to mimic this bit right here, where I'm going to have on each strand 1 aqua bead, a fire polish bead, and then 3 seed beads. So let's pick up 1 seed bead, 1 fire polish bead, then 1, 2, 3 of these guys. And then we're going to put both of these through this melon bead in the same direction. So I've got both of my wires together. Put them through. And then pull that down like that. Now I am only going to need 1 of these wires for my loop. So I'm going to crimp these wires together here. And then we'll make a loop and use a second crimp for that after I do that. So I'm going to crimp this. There it is. I'm doing it right next to this bead is a little bit awkward. But I just want to make sure it is good and crimped. Okay, so now that that is crimped, I'm going to grab one of these wires and I'm going to snip it. It's right next to the crimp like that. And then place one of these beads on here. And before I go any further, I'm going to scoop my 8/0 seed beads up off my mat because I'm going to be pulling out some 11/0 seed beads shortly. I think with the 11/0 seed beads, I'm just going to pick up the random beads and string them on. I'm not going to like do a single color. It'll be just all of them. Hold on, because I want these guys to get mixed up a little bit more with the stuff that's in the bottom. Look at that, I barely made a dent in the amount of seed beads that I got. These are giant tubes of seed beads, y'all. Giant tubes of seed beads. Alright, and this is the 11/0 mix. It is the exact same colors, but just smaller beads. And I love them. So, for this, I've got a little separator bead that's going to be hanging out between my crimps. It's just there to be a buffer so that I don't have two weird crimps next to each other. It's just, it eases the awkwardness of that. Just a little bit. I am so good at planning. No. You know what is good? Measuring things. Measure twice, cut once, right? And I just need one of these. So I'm going to put this on all the way down there. And now I am going to just try and get as many beads on here as I can. Oh, they are not going to be getting on this wire that easily. So I'm going to need to push down when I pick them up. That's just how this goes. That's okay, that just gives my painting extra time to dry. Right? So it's probably going to be several of these that I need. At least 30, maybe 32, possibly 36, maybe more. This is a fairly large button. What I'm going to need it to do is be long enough to go around this button. And it looks like, oh, look how great that looks with like all of the beads on there. Isn't that great? I love that. So that's going to go around once, so twice this number might work. I am going to pick it up and put it once I've got the other ones on here. You know, the end of this is just a little bit flattened, so this is a little pro tip when you're using a thicker wire. I'm gonna just hold the wire at an angle in here, and so it cuts the end just at a little angle, makes it a little bit sharper, and it makes it a little bit easier to pick up 11 seed beads with this wire. Sometimes that like blunt end makes it a little bit difficult to string these on here. Let me see if that is enough. I'm doing this away from there so that I can pinch both ends of the wire together with my fingernail while I test my loop to see if it will go around, and it will go around. It is a little bit on the loose side, in fact. So I'm going to drop about 5 of these. I'm not taking them off the wire, I'm just going to drop them out of the way for testing purposes. Let's hold both ends of these together. And 5. I lost too many of them. It won't go on with that. So let's try it with, I'm going to add 3 back. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the loop being a little bit looser, as long as it's not like super loose. I just don't want it coming off on me while I'm wearing it. Okay. There we go. That is perfect. All right. So that means I need to slide 2 of these off of here, since those are the ones down there. All right, perfect. So now that I've got all of these seed beads on here, I go back through this crimp tube. I don't think that I can get 2 strands through this. Nope, I cannot, so that is totally fine. I didn't expect to be able to. There we go. So I've got, I'm just adjusting the loop and the crimp and where this wire is, and just wiggling with my fingernail here to make sure that there's a little bit of space between the crimp and these seed beads, because otherwise I might potentially crush the seed beads when I go to crimp. I don't want to do that. Not after carefully counting the perfect amount of seed beads for that. So then I'm going to go ahead and crimp my big little loop right here on this end. All right. Now I have a pretty Aurora Borealis bracelet to go with my necklace that I just made. Let's scooch these guys up. I'm going to put them away real quick and check on my painting, because I really would like it to be dry by now so that I can keep painting on it, because it is not done by any stretch of the imagination. I need to get some deeper black over that blue on the edges. So let me move this out of the way. Oh, good, 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 good. This is dried. This is definitely drieder than it was before. Alright. So now I going to be using some of this black paint, but I am going to be adding a little tinge of my blue to it. So let me get this blue out of here onto my palette. Get some of this black in here. There we go. Now, I am going to fill in some sky, some night sky. Just doing some soft strokes. In here. Alright, now let's, I don't know, maybe we've got, just gonna do a little bit of gray. Maybe there's like, I don't know, a mountain or something way off in the distance. Go. See, it was just a mass of colors until we start adding a little bit of darkness. Alright, now I'm just going to fill in the foreground a little bit more with some black, and then we'll start making some tree shapes with this black as we get up here, I think. It's entirely possible that I will need to get more black paint out of the tube. Okay, good. I just had some water drip on off my brush onto here, so I'm just gonna spread this around a little bit. Just doing little dots here to, I don't know, maybe we've got some trees up in there, some foliage. Off in the distance there. What's funny is that I just painted those and it's already dry enough that these aren't spreading out. I'm definitely fine with that. Alright. Let's start here. Move downwards. Just adding some trees and things. Okay. May have, if I really wanted to make it fancy, I would have done like a lake or something so it could be a reflection there, but I didn't feel like doing that today, so we're just gonna have some trees in the way, and that's gonna be just fine. Let's get a couple of trees over here, some tree silhouettes. How about one here, a big one right here, right over that spot. And a little friend for him over here. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to take this brush, I just dried it off a little bit. I'm just going to kind of soften the edges of these a little bit more, because it is a very Is that softened too much? Do I need to come back in and do some do some lines. Probably not. Actually, that is one of the effects that you get with that. Getting some more of those lines in there. All right. Oh. Some of those might be a little too dismal. I have way too much black paint in my brush. Can't do anything with that. I really should have moved this up just a little bit. Alright. Now when I add some stars to the sky, it might be a little more, or if we add some more sky to this bit here. I was just feeling like I needed more, a little more dark. Yeah, that feels much more borealis-y. Alright. Let this dry, and when we come back to the painting, we'll add some stars to the sky. How about that? In the meantime, we can do some earrings. Now, I am, for the month of April, doing a little personal challenge where I make a pair of earrings every day And so these earrings are going to be my earrings for today that I make as part of my challenge. And I love, love, love these crystals. So they're just going to be the drops at the bottom of some earrings. And I think we're going to use all 3 of these. So I'm going to have that, this, and then these little guys in between. Maybe one of these guys at the top too. Yeah, I think that's going to look fantastic. So I'm going to grab some of that wire that I was talking about earlier. And I'm going to do one of those fun wrap around the bead designs for this link that's going to go between the crystal and my ear wires. Which, speaking of ear wires, did I get some ready? I do. I have some ready right here. Fantastic. Alright, so we're going to want that plus a little bit extra, so about 6 inches of wire per earring. I have black paint all over my fingers. That's totally fine because it's, I don't know if you know this about watercolor, but it is water soluble. I can wash it off really easily. Alright, now I'm going to want a loop that has a wide enough curve that it's not going to disturb the crystal very well, or and this actually would probably work best. I'm just going to stick that in through there, just right here near the bottom. I've got about an inch of space here. Push this gently up because it is crystal. I don't want to break it. And then pull this one forward. Give it a little bit of a pinch. I'm going to want this to be pointing out straight and centered here over this crystal. So I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers and just give the wire a little bit of an upward bend right there, like that. And use my finger to push the wire back and around that bend right there. And I shouldn't need to do more than one wrap here because I'm going to come down and wrap around this after I get my other beads on here. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to keep using these. So we're going to put one of these little green fire polish beads on there, and then this 3-color bead, a fire polish bead, my purple and pink guy, and then a fire polish bead like this. Now, I'm going to turn this to the side, bend this wire back away from me over the top of my pliers so that I've got a little bit of room here. I'm going to make a little loop. And where did my round nose pliers go? I can't find my round nose pliers, so I'm going to use these. These are 6-step bell making pliers, and I just need to make myself a little loop here for my ear wires to go through. So after I make that bend, I put this over the top and then pushed the wire around that round part. I'm just going to maneuver that wire all the way around. And I'm going to wrap twice up here. And you notice how there's all this extra room? Now I can hold the loop and that bead and bring it around towards the back. Then hold this bead right here, the next bead in a row. And then bring this wire around towards the back so it goes over the front. And then we're going to go around that one and around this one, all the way down, all the way down. I think I'm going to need to do a little bit extra for this bit here. There we go. I just want the wire to go towards the front, towards the front of these beads. There we go. Okay. Now I can wrap a couple more times around that one loop that I only did like a single wrap around. And right here at the back, tuck in that end. Be gentle so you don't so we are all twisty and turny and sinuously going through like the that other stuff snaking across there. And let me show you how to kind of plan it so that your second ear wire twists in the opposite direction. So you notice here where my loop is, it's going around the back of it and then towards the front. So when I wrap it the next time, instead of going around the back of it, I'm going to go around the front of it, and that way it'll go around that way. I'll show you. I'll show you when we get there. Let me get my 6 inches of wire out here. And I'm just straightening the wire with my fingers, by the way. And it warms it up and makes it easier to work with. So I've got that about 1 inch coming out here that I am going to press up and back. And we're going to go up and forward. Make a little bend right about there. And then go around carefully there. And stack my beads on the same order as before. Okay, now, just like before, I'm going to turn this to the side and wrap over or bend over the top of my pliers, just like with the other one. Just like the other one, I'm going to take my round nose pliers, I'm going to bring this up and then bring it around, and this is where I make the decision. So on this one, when I turned it here, I had the wire go this way around, so it would go here. Now I'm going to go towards the front of the loop instead of around the back of the loop. And now when I wrap it, let's go around twice. It's going to wrap in the opposite direction. So turning this upside down so that gravity can help me hold this bead in the way. But I also still need to hold this one too. See how it goes in opposite direction. And let's go around. this whole thing. That's how you change directions, as you go either to the front or to the back when you are doing this type of wrapping. Spirally. Let's get these ear wires on. Now, do I have a paint marker here in white? That is the question. I have some of my paint markers that got moved. No, I've got silver. Silver's good enough. Or I could go grab some white gouache and use that instead for our stars, because you know what? I am done with this jewelry set. Isn't that pretty? I love those so much. So let me move this out of the way, bring back my, I'm gonna go grab some white gouache too. So didn't I have some right here? No, I don't need to go grab it. I may have moved it when I was cleaning up some of my stuff, so I'll be right back. Alright. Moving the jewelry out of the way. I got my white gouache so I can paint some stars. That is dry enough. My water is a little bit gray, and my brush is very, do you know what? I'm not using that brush. I'm using this brush. Alright. Which has a lot of blue in it. That's fantastic. Let's clean that out. Alright. trying to do fairly controlled splatters. Let's do a few more spots. A few bigger dots in some of these spot places. So that it looks more like a night sky. Alright, and I think maybe I'm going to take this blob here. We're going to make it into a little shooting star. Whoop! Son of a... Well. Good as new! There we go. Good as new. Let me grab some more of that black paint and kind of fill in that spot a little bit better. Now that I've removed some of it with my little accident. Actually, it's going to work out because then I can do more tree dots and strokes here. It's going to fill in that. Let's see, without the... See how that, when I move the glare out of the way. I've got so many bits that used to be shadows here. Let's do a little tree here. Just doing a tree in that spot where there's some gray behind it. It may not be completely noticeable by just about everyone, but it'll add a little more texture to this big black blob of foreground. See those? More tree shape. Yeah, we're just finishing up with our details. Also, just going to cover up some of these splatters that ended up here on this with some black paint. It's okay. I feel like I might be done. What do you think? Does that feel like the Northern Lights to you? I think it does. Well, let me pull out my jewelry, put it next to this. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit. Nope, no zooming out, it looks like. That's okay, because we've got this one here. We've got this one here. We've got these guys here. There we go. Northern Lights with Northern Lights. Wrong way. Turn it over, Bex. Like that. Alright, thanks for spending some time with me. I hope you have a fantastic week. And please check out Sam's Bead Shop. I will see if these are still available. And if they are, then I'll put a link to that in the description. Also put a link to Sam's Bead Box if you are interested in subscribing. Until then, happy beading.